Welcome to another 1/2 hour of Words Make People. A word is anything that brings a message to your mind. And for those of y'all that's tuning in today, we really appreciate it. You know, like I know, we're here to just share information to help individuals make better choices based on what they hear from our program. So we're asking you, as always, call a friend, a neighbor, a relative, a cousin, co-worker. Tell them Words Make People is on the airways. We have a special show today that you need to hear. Get on the phone. Call them right now. Thank you for tuning in. Our special guest today, and we call it special guest because there are those in the community that recognize how we need to make it happen for everybody in the community. Our guest today is our newly elected chief, maybe about 6 months now, Police Chief Hawkins. Sir.
Well, thank you. Thank
welcome.
you so much for having me.
Glad to have you here today.
Yes.
And so I'm not going to do a lot of talking today. All I need to share with you is that we're about community. Community, in the word community. We're not just taking letters and making words. Remember, there are those words that define themselves. In the word learn is the word earn. In the word earn is the word ear. You have to give an ear in order to earn how to learn. Don't be so quick to respond just because you can't control those forces within yourself. Be mindful that in the word mother is the word other. In the word other is the word the. In the word the is the word he. In the word other is the word her. Mother, the other, her, he. She's the boss whether you like it or not. Us older guys and us men know it. You call yourself the boo. You know it as well too. Because her greatest weapon is the two-edged sword. That tongue looks like a sword. What word is in the word sword? Word. She will get the last word, won't she?
Yes, indeed.
Mothers will
Yes, indeed.
Whether you like it or not, you can talk underneath your breath all you want. You go to your room, curfew, clean that room, mother talk. You know it. So no need in talking about it anymore. You have to be conscious of, in the word cheat is the word heat. In the word heat is the word eat. If you cheat, you're going to catch the heat, you won't eat. Or if you cheat, you won't eat, you're going to catch the heat. In the word trust is the word rust. In the word rust is the word us. If there's no trust between us, it's going to turn to rust. It's a stain you don't want on you. And so I'm here to say with you today, we're here to ask some questions about the police chief, and also we'd like for him to share with us about his experience being here for this short period of time, how things are going, and how we can assist in the responsibility of this obligation that he has, that many of you think he's going to do it by himself, the way you thought Obama was going to do it by himself, all by himself, as President of the United States of America. It just don't work like that. Police chief, please share with us your thoughts about your experience so far here in Albany, coming from the Midwest region, and how you see things, and how would you like for the community to assist in this awesome effort that you have?
Well, thank you so much again for having me here, and it's it's an honor, it's a pleasure to be here before you. You and I have spoken several times in many different places.
Yes.
And I've been looking forward to coming and talking to you a little bit more.
Glad
on your
you're
show.
here. Yes.
And I see a lot of similarities between where I came from in Southeast Michigan and where I am here in Albany in the Capital District. And that the people want the same thing. Mm-hmm. People want to feel respected. People want to have an opportunity to do good things in life. They want to have an opportunity to raise children and to be safe and things like that. And so people are the same. But you just talked about something in your introduction that's extremely important, especially for me as a law enforcement professional, and that is, you talked about the word trust.
Yes.
People need to trust that those who are in positions, in public positions, are doing what they are supposed to be doing.
Yes.
That they're serving honorably. They need to trust that those things are happening. And so as I come here to the Capital District, and especially in the city of Albany, it's important for me to make sure that I'm doing things and helping to position this police department where we can continue to build upon trust with folks in this community. Mm-hmm. And so but it's been exciting. It's a great area. There's great people. The energy around the Capital District is very exciting. I've been enjoying it so far. I'm looking forward to many years in this area.
Excellent. Great. And so you hear the police chief, and you know that in America there's been this aspect of trust with law enforcement. And so he's in a very precarious situation, and we have to look at the peculiarity of what's going on and what's happening. And we know, as I asked him once, and he mentioned, he is going to submit to the Constitution, the law of what governs law enforcement in the department that he's over. So we have to give him a chance to do that, as just like anyone else, and to see how this responsibility is going to play out based on what he just got finished saying in reference to trust. You have to give a person the opportunity, because you have to see yourself. If you was in that position, what would you do? You just fire all white officers? I don't think so. You wouldn't do that. If that's your mindset, you have to understand violence is inappropriate use of force. Based on that definition, when do you have the right to be violent? Violent is inappropriate use of force. We say that's the definition. Violence is inappropriate use of force. When do you have the right to be violent based on that definition? Never. In the word never is the word ever. In the word ever is the word Eve. That's where it started. That seducer, that Satan, that devil, whatever you want to call it, is still out there, whispering in our ears to tell us to do the ugly, the nasty, the cheap language and cheap everything. So we can't blame anyone, because we do know that based on our mindset and the mindset we have to be careful of that mindset and not allow for others to play us out of the great life that we can have and that we're going to have, because we in the community have to establish it. The police chief, the individual on the streets, those in the hood, those in suits and ties, wherever you name it, come united, unity. And so we asked Police Chief Wiley at the excellent opportunity that Pastor David had, which was called the Alert.
Yes.
And we asked Chief Rowley, because he was mentioning that law enforcement has a responsibility that has been compounded. Why has it been compounded, a responsibility for law enforcement? Because there's not enough money going to money going to help those that have mental issues. And there's not enough money going to help those with mental issues. That means there's more people in the community that have mindsets that need to be addressed. And law enforcement has to address it, okay? And so I asked Chief Riley, I concur with that. I agree with that. And what compounds that is those individuals in law enforcement, just like in society as a whole, that are nationalists, that are racist, that have diabolical schemes in their mind, that only compounds it for them as well. And so I agree with Pastor Charlie that he's trying to get as many guns off the streets and giving money for those to turn their guns in. And some people say, why should we do that? And we're being killed by police officers. Well, let me say this here, and you think about it, okay? Those individuals in our community that have guns are not killing police officers. Not that they should, don't get me wrong. But we don't have a history in America of African Americans shooting police officers. We have a history of African Americans black on black crime. So the guns should be taken away. My point is, we should be mindful and conscious of the number one crime, and that is self-abuse. How do you use yourself, or how do you allow yourself to be used? We have to be the protectors of our community. We have to be the protectors in our society and the environment. And the police chief is here to make sure that the training that officers get, that they are fulfilled, and they're not going to be making excuses. So, Chief Hawkins, we understand that there is a training, and you did speak about that Constitution. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, one of the things that we do with all of our officers, both the brand new officers and the officers who've been on the police force for a number of years, is impress upon them that we will have constitutional policing. And we will respect the constitutional rights of everybody that we deal with. But it goes even deeper than that, because we also have to understand that we have to have our officers have some sort of empathy for those that they're serving.
Is that difficult, with empathy? You know, if they may be coming from the same community or environment?
Sometimes it does. And one of the things that we do with all of our officers is we have a very, very robust implicit bias and cultural competency component to our training.
Okay.
Because we all do. You and I have implicit biases. You know, no matter what you're...
So for some of our audience members, they may not know that language, what implicit bias may be. Can you break that down for them a little bit?
Sure. So implicit bias is just this concept that we all have certain types of biases that we hold within ourselves.
Okay.
And we think about other people or situations in a way that may not be productive and that may not be fair.
Okay.
And we have those, and we all harbor those. But the key with having these implicit biases is that we have to understand that they're there. And so when we have these trainings with our officers, we're teaching our officers, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, all of these officers, that these implicit biases that you harbor are not unnatural. Okay, it's something that we all have, but the key is that we learn how to manage those implicit biases, and that they don't manifest themselves into behaviors against other people.
Gotcha.
So it's very important, and this is the very nice thing about this implicit bias and cultural competency component to this training, is that it forces our officers, our black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever their ethnicity may be, it forces them to really get an understanding about people who are different than them, about their challenges, about their history, about some of their day-to-day things that they deal with, so that you really do get this understanding, and that you naturally develop an empathy when you're out on it doesn't matter what your interactions are with folks.
Wow.
That's a key thing.
So you're hearing the police chief now, and we talked about this on the airways before, and he clearly just stated something we resoundingly share with you. Learned habits without understanding how you got those habits. Yeah. Learned habits people have. You have a learned habit, and you don't know how you got that habit. You might have got it from plantation life. Plantation, in the words made people. In the word plantation is the word plant, a seed. In the word plantation is the word plant. In the word plant is the word plant, and plant a seed. What was the seed that was planted in your mind to continually commit self-abuse, to abuse yourself? What is it that you learned from generations of loved ones and parents and generations of family members, of habits that you have that you believe are sacred to you, habits that you believe that is true, that all those people are that way, all those people are that way. The Italians, the Greeks, the Irish, they have slogans about Puerto Ricans and African Americans. These habits that we have, we need to understand how we got them, and in fact, are they true? Because the seducer, the enemy to man, is not concerned about ethnicity. The enemy of man is concerned about how to do what? When I mentioned to you about Eve, the enemy, the seducer, the enemy to man, is about seducing the woman's mind to corrupt her mind. Why? Because if he corrupts the woman's mind, he corrupts a whole family, a whole community, a whole society. If the seducer corrupts a man's mind, he's only corrupting an individual. And so when we realize this and understand that, this is what the police chief is saying now. That training of trying to get people in working in law enforcement and every other field as well too, about these biases, about these idiosyncrasies, these things that you have that you believe is true, and come to find out, no, it's not true. Because there's only one people that had the right to commit 9/11, and that was the African American, based on slavery and what was taken from them, which was everything. Not the Muslims, the Arabs, or whoever committed that particular act. But really, no one had the right to commit that act, because to get to the enemy, you don't kill innocent people. So that mindset was really toxic and diabolical. And when I hear the police chief talking about this Constitution, that he's going to make sure every officer knows that they're going to be implemented, we have to give him time to make sure that happens. And so I'm excited about that kind of understanding that's coming to us. And you have to say, oh, no, he's just like all the rest of the police chiefs. He's just taking a position. Look what happened to Al-Azhar, and he got shot in the back, this, that, and the other. No, you have to understand now. The DA said that he wasn't going to prosecute. The DA is obligated to prosecute if there's evidence to prosecute. But the evidence wasn't there for the DA to do that. So, understanding that our police chief came on at a time when something happened, and so as the mayor that came on last week, she's concerned about this summer, and based on what took place last summer, and we have to ask the police chief about how they prepared and what they plan to do and what they would like for the community to do to help prevent something happening this summer that happened last summer.
And thank you for bringing that up, because what we learned in law enforcement over the years, and what I've personally learned in this, is that there's this social dynamic that kind of factors into criminality in municipalities. And if we don't deal with those social factors, then we're just going to be spinning our wheels. We're going to be arresting people, and and then you have another element that comes behind them, and so things really don't change,
Yes.
except for the amount of people that you arrest. So I want some more substantive change, in not just in Albany, but in communities across America. And in law enforcement, we have got to understand that there's social issues that factor into why people are doing some of the things that they're doing.
Sure.
And we have got to partner with these organizations as law enforcement professionals, these organizations that are dealing with those social issues like mental health and substance abuse.
Yes.
And some of the social networks within our families that are broken down.
Key. Very key.
Education.
Yes.
All of these different things.
And the lack of education, that's right.
Lack
Proper
thereof.
education, that's right.
Absolutely, and problematic. And so we have got to be
That's a lot.
involved.
That's a lot.
And so it's not just about us going out, and just to be sure, just to let our folks know in our community, we're not going to condone any violent or antisocial behaviors in our communities that rise to the levels of crime.
Sure.
And we're going to take a very, very hard approach to those individuals who are preying on people in our community.
Okay.
And if that happens, and just to finish out
No,
with
go
this
ahead,
thought,
please.
if that happens, we're going to take a very, very strong approach to that. And we will remove those individuals from our streets who are preying on innocent folks in this community.
Excellent.
And so that component will be there. But also in conjunction with that, we're going to be working very, very closely. You mentioned Jonathan Jones from our recreation department. We're going to be working very, very closely with our recreation, with folks in our planning department, with folks who are dealing with prisoner reentry or ex-offender reentry
Yes.
programs. All of these sorts of things, we're going to be involved with our schools, doing things with the public school system. We're going to be very, very closely connected with these institutions that are dealing with the social issues that are causing some of these problems.
Yes, excellent. And so a couple of things that I know we did try to get in before the time is that. And so when does, based on the training, an officer have the right or authority to shoot an individual in the community or a person? What training tells them that they are allowed to use their revolver?
An officer is only allowed to use this, what we call lethal force.
Lethal force, okay.
And this is a last resort type of force that officers have. Only if there's a threat to that officer's life or a threat to somebody else's life.
Okay.
And if those, or some threat that there is going to be some great bodily harm to either the officer or to somebody else.
Okay.
And so when you don't have those factors present, then officers are required to use some lesser form of force in order to effect arrest.
Okay.
And so it's very, very important. You ask about the training that our officers get. They get a great deal of training in helping them to recognize the situations where lethal force is appropriate, but not just lethal force, but any sort of force. And force can be simply using vocal commands to tell a person to stop.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a form, and they're being trained to use from that all the way up to lethal force, and when those things are appropriate. And so,
Okay.
I'm very proud and very, very satisfied with the type of training these officers are getting now. But the key thing for us is to have ongoing training and to make sure that they're getting it at appropriate times throughout the year,
Sure.
as circumstances change,
Okay.
as laws and case law changes, and as norms in society change,
Okay.
then we have to change as well.
Excellent. Well, we know this seducer, the enemy to man, has allowed for laws to be changed in reference to alcohol. Alcohol was illegal at one time. Gambling was illegal at one time. And so now, marijuana, weed, is going to be on the scene. How are you prepared to address that and deal with that dichotomy that's coming up?
And marijuana, the legalization of marijuana presents some challenges for law enforcement because there's a perception that by legalizing it that there's going to be a decrease in violence associated with it. Well, all of the research that we're seeing and all of the experts who are within law enforcement who are dealing with marijuana right now, they're suggesting that perhaps there may be an actual increase in violence associated with that, because you're never going to lose that black market associated with it, and it may in fact empower those who are working within that black market. So we're cognizant of that, and we're working out some strategies right now to deal with the potential that there's going to be an increase in the black market with that. And there's also what is suggested in other states about drunk driving or impaired driving and things like that. And so that's on our radar as well. So what that means for law enforcement is that it's going to take some additional training for some of these officers to identify folks who may be impaired while they're out on our roadways. I mean, it's a serious problem when you have folks who are impaired either by alcohol or any other type of substance.
I was going to say that, yes.
It really adds to the instability of our roads and makes things a lot more dangerous. So we'll be working on a lot of those things.
Excellent. Okay. And so we're here sharing information about what we believe the community needs to hear. You can always call us at 518-779-5893, because I have invited the police chief to come back on as well as our radio show to come share information with us. Use this forum at any given time when he needs to speak to the community to share information about anything that may be on your mind. And so we can't do it all in 1/2 hour. We can't do it in 2 half hours. We can't do it in a whole year, because there's always going to be some concerns that's going to be coming up. We should be concerned about doing our share. Some may say, community, come unity, unity. Does that mean snitching? That means you can call it snitching if you want to. But if you keep the same people in the community that's killing our young men and women through drugs and all those other things, and you don't think that it's killing them, giving them the wrong mindset where they can't eventually aspire to their passion and begin to make it happen. Last week we had on the show the ex-superintendent of schools, and he mentioned, from kindergarten to 3rd grade, they learn to read. And after that, they read to learn. And so it's a process and understanding that the human being has to learn his life, and we have to learn the proper life, that by getting proper knowledge. And we can do that by making sure that we protect our own community and our own environment. And many times, if you can't do it, call 518-779-5893. You'll get Brother Kadir, and we'll help you in the best way we possibly can. We're not the can do it. We're a 501c3 program that have resources to help and assist to help get to where we really want to go. So we got a couple minutes left, Chief. We'd like for you to share what you believe, what you think is necessary for the community to hear on how the community can assist and help. But we should never take the spirit of see something, say something means snitching. Be assured, see something, say something mean that we may be saving a life and we may be helping in our community, not to allow for something to take place so that we can have this stigma in our community. There's a grand opportunity right now in Albany. Take my word for it. There is only one community in America that's been totally refurbished, and that's my hometown. That's Harlem. And the reason why Harlem is totally refurbished is because it's in Manhattan. And Manhattan, you can't find nowhere to go. It's expensive. So I mentioned to the mayor, she said she took my slogan, that the capital of the world is Manhattan, and the capital of the world is Albany. And the capital of the world can't look like this, and they're in the process of making it happen. So regardless who went into office, whether it was Hillary or Trump, there was going to be the productivity of making sure that our whole society gets back into what it needs to as far as workforce development. Because there's, the work that need to be in our communities has to happen. So I'm excited about the opportunities that's here. We know that there's always going to be all kind of different things, but we want the chief to get the last few words. We got about 3 or 4 minutes left. We want him to share with us. And so it's not the last time. Don't expect for him to give it all at one time, just like you expect for us to give it all at one time as well. But this is what's important, that we are having individuals, community leaders, grassroots people on our show that they can share with you of what they're doing and how you can get help, whatever help you need to make your life better. Chief?
Thank you so much. And just to end this out, I like to say, to our community that, just like you said, there's so much promise in this community. I'm so proud to now be a part of this community. I'm so proud to have been invited here. I'm so proud to have been accepted by these great people in the Albany community. And as we move forward, some of the issues, and I'm saying this from a law enforcement perspective, the issues that we're seeing in terms of crime and disorder in some of our communities, those issues will not be solved nor resolved by the police department alone. We are a part of it, and we're a part of this community. And so what I would ask our members of our community as we move into our summer is to continue to partner with our law enforcement officers. We have one of the more robust community policing programs in the country.
Yes.
I talk with law enforcement executives from around this country on a regular basis, and we talk about what's offered in places. This city...
Let me cut you off for a minute.
Yes.
So you remember now, 3 minutes left. This Saturday is the last clinic for the PAL, this Saturday at Albany High from 10 to 12 noon to get your child involved. Yes. Okay, so you mentioned that. I wanted to make clear that because we've been mentioning for this whole month of March to get your child involved in the PAL baseball and clinic. And that's going to be this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Albany High. Excuse me, I wanted to mention that. I wanted to let that out.
And thank you so much for mentioning that, because it's programs like the Police Athletic League, and we
Yes.
have neighborhood engagement officers, and we're doing a number of things. So continue partnering with your police department on those initiatives. But what I would also ask is that if you know someone in this community who needs some help finding a job, who are dealing with some mental health challenges, who may not understand the importance of education,
Yes.
who may have some substance abuse problems. If you know those folks, in my 6 months here, what has been so impressive to me is the number of resources available in this community for those
Yes.
who have those social type problems. So as we end this program, I would ask that if you know folks who are dealing with those types of social issues, help them to find some of these social agencies that can help them get through those problems, because that, in my experience in almost 30 years in law enforcement, addressing those issues will indirectly address our issues of crime and disorder in our communities.
Excellent. And as you heard, the mayor came on this past week. She said the same thing. There are plenty of programs. And if you think that they're feeding you BS, you call 518-779-5893. If you don't have the patience to get through the paperwork or the whatever it may be, we can assist and help you get through that process. Because many times it's the process that you have to get through that you can't tolerate or assist or whatever it may be. We want to thank you for tuning in today. We really appreciate you tuning in for this half hour. We invited the police chief to come back, and he said he will come back, whether it's on our radio or television, as need be, to share in the community. If we offended anyone, we apologize. It is not our intent to offend anyone. This is a program on Words Make People, and a word is anything that brings a message to your mind, and we're here trying to improve our minds to make better choices in life. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. Assalamu alaikum. And Chief, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
You're welcome.
All right.